Branching out on my own, I started International Technological Information Consultants, ITIC, an automotive training company, in 1978. I acquired a large motor home that I customized to include living quarters, and stocked with 4,000 pounds of automotive equipment, including 5,000 tools and a complete diagnostic center and machine shop. This workshop on wheels, called Metromobile One, operated for 2 years, assisting newly established GM dealers in Saudi Arabia build and operate their service departments. My first year and a half was spent training over 1,000 mechanics and selling equipment to over 35 different Arab companies, while driving my unit across the desert sands of Saudi Arabia. Sometimes I would pull over for the night in the desert and cook a meal, take a shower and sleep in the middle of nowhere high in the mountaintops. Sheikh Abdullah insisted that I move in with the service manager, who was being terminated in a month's time. While I was living with the service manager, there was no transportation provided for me, and I walked up to 5 miles a day during the hottest period of the year for about 18 days. In October 1979 I was in Riyadh giving a training program to a GM dealer, when I received a telephone call from the GM dealer in Yanbu. He offered me an assignment preparing 75 vehicles coming in from Detroit for delivery to the Royal Commission. I accepted the job, but unfortunately my visa had expired. I had no registration for my unit, and I was driving without a driver's license. Not wanting to leave the country, to take care of at least my visa, I decided to take my chances, and made the 2-day drive from Riyadh to Yanbu to complete this project. When I arrived in Yanbu I witnessed the start of the very beginning of the world's largest construction projects in modern history, the construction of Madinat Yanbu Al Sanayar Yanbu Industrial City. 1 crude oil pipeline and 1 gas pipeline from the east coast expanding 750 miles to the west coast city of Yanbu make up the backbone of the kingdom's ambitious plans to build a hydrocarbon industry fortified by a steel mill, and a variety of secondary manufacturing and support industries. The Saudi International Automobile Trading Company was the only automotive manufacturing representative in Yanbu. Siatco successfully bid on the transportation vehicle leasing contracts, and were in the process of delivering their first vehicles onto the contract. I pulled my mobile unit inside their service department, living, working, showering, and eating for 10 consecutive days, working about 19 hours per day. After all the vehicles were successfully on the contract, I was taken to Jeddah, where I paid a fine to the immigration department, and went off on my first leave in 6 months to Germany. The day my new visa was supposed to come through, the mosque in Mecca was overtaken, which resulted in me being in Germany for 2 months instead of 2 weeks. My sponsor in Jeddah was not very responsible, as demonstrated by my lack of visa documents when I left Saudi. Finally a telex came over the wire from Siatco in Yanbu saying, "We have already established a visa for you in Washington. We want you to come work for us permanently." After some consideration, I accepted. From 1980 to 1981, I worked in the industrial city of Yanbu, Saudi Arabia, where I managed contracts for the General Motors dealer that was under contract supporting a $150 billion construction project for the Royal Commission of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Those last 2 years in Yanbu have been the most challenging for me. After spending 6 months establishing a first-class service department, I went on to accept the position of Operations Director and Project Manager on 4 Royal Commission contracts and 1 Aramco contract. Ralph M. Parsons, an American engineering firm, were hired to manage and oversee the entire construction project and were responsible in the joint effort of administrating our Royal Commission contracts. I have had the opportunity to make presentations to the Royal Commission Director General and senior staff members of both the Royal Commission and Parsons on U.S. mass transportation products and successfully introduced custom-built General Motors RTS coach buses into the Saudi transportation network for the first time. I worked with Egyptians in our company and Saudis in the Royal Commission to build a good performance record operating the Western Kingdom region transit system, expanding the project's vehicle leasing contracts to include over 850 fully maintained vehicles. over the last 2 years we watched over 40,000 new employees come into the Yanbu industrial city, building an industrial community at a mind-boggling rate. After completing my first 1.5 years on the project, I proposed an increase in salary for my accomplishments. They countered with an offer that left me with a sense of inexpressible shock and disappointment. Most Westerners in the Middle East are employed by Western-based companies in partnership with Saudi organizations. Since I was working for a 100% private Saudi company, it was up to me to present all my ammunition to support my case. They countered with one of their own. It became well known around the base what was happening, as it is a common practice for Saudis to play their ace in the hole whenever they negotiate. That is their sponsorship. They have complete control governing your existence while residing in their country. At this point, I was playing my strongest card. I was threatening to quit. When that failed to bring the results, I sued the company. Using written translations supporting my documents, I represented myself in a labor court proceeding that lasted 2 weeks. It is the tradition of the Arab people to put up a strong fight, and in the end, they respected me for not compromising my position. I had already been through more agony than I wish to describe. I felt like my lifelong career development was on trial in this case, so to lose it meant losing the respect of the people on the project as well as my own self-respect. The last day of trial came, and it was obvious I was losing my case. At that point I stood up and said, I understand that I am losing my argument, and that I would appeal the case to the Supreme Labor Council, a right granted to me under Saudi law, and then I went into a yelling state describing the irresponsible attitudes of my company, to take advantage of someone who invested his own time and money, heart and soul in the advancement of the Saudi people by training men and building up an industry, not because it was just a job, but because of the meaningful family relationships I thought I shared with the people I worked and lived with. After that they acknowledged my position, and raised their offer, knowing I was not going to give up my case. I did not get everything I sued for, but I got enough to bring me the most important accomplishment in my career. I won my case.